and welcome to another episode of Anecdotal Adventures Reads Worms. I am Ashley, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host,
Cassidy.
And today we are reading Arc 3, Agitation, where we last left off. Taylor convinced herself that she should join the Undersiders to gather information. We really know she just wants a friend. This can only end poorly, in my mind. Any thoughts before we jump into the chapter?
No, not really. I'm just super excited to get into it.
Okay, well, we will see you all when we have finished reading Arc 3, so get ready for that, I guess. Hello, and we are back, having just finished up reading Arc 3, Agitation. Oh boy, this was a ride. Cassidy, we just experienced Taylor rob a bank.
Rob a bank and kind of fuck some people up. It was not a smooth bank robbery. It was bad.
Yeah, well, anyway, let us go to the beginning, where we see Taylor jogging in her morning, and she meets up with Brian, trades some talking with him. We find out that none of the Undersiders, sans Taylor, go to school, and Taylor leaves Brian to go to her school, and sees Sophia once in the hallway, and Sophia does a small, mean thing to her, and Taylor turns, and she just leaves school to go hang out with the Undersiders right there. She's putting up with less and less by running away into her supervillain life for her escapism. And that was the first one or two chapters. And then we find her at the Undersider space, where she is flirting in her head with Brian as Brian teaches her some hand-to-hand combat moves. We learn a bit more about Undersiders' personalities and how they work together in this arc. Thoughts, opinions, feelings?
Just want to make it known that I put down tallies every time this arc. I saw her subconsciously eyeing up Brian, and I am at 6 tallies in the 11 chapters we read today in this arc.
Okay, so and there's probably so much more than that. We'd have to we'd be highlighting half of this book if we highlighted every time Taylor eyed up Brian. I would hedge a bet to say.
And I find it amusing because one of the first things she said in this chapter about Brian, it was like, especially as he was teaching her hand-to-hand combat, because he knew exactly the ways to, hurt somebody, as his job entails. And one of the things she decided to say was that she saw him as a pretty good guy if she ignored the career choice, is how she put it.
Yeah, I explicitly like the line. It was a little disconcerting to hear Brian talk about all the different ways to systematically break another human being. I think that was pretty fun. But she's definitely full on fooling herself in this. So much. She goes to talk to Armsmaster in this chapter. What did we think of Armsmaster's reaction to her becoming a spy? Do we agree with that Taylor's doing something stupid right now?
I think Taylor's doing something stupid, but Armsmaster was a dick about it.
Armsmaster seems to we got a little more of Armsmaster talking to other people in the interlude. Armsmaster just seems to be just a dick all the time. I think that's his general setting. He might be a little Tony Starkish, like Iron Man type, socially awkward, doesn't know how to talk to people without offending them and stepping on toes.
Yeah, but Tony Stark has enough money that he doesn't have to do those things to fend for his reputation, to make sure he doesn't lose his job.
No, he's Tony Stark without money. Broke Tony Stark.
Yeah, so you don't get that nice it's more of a facade, and he makes him seem more two-faced rather than like Tony Stark, where you're just like, well, that's Tony for you, because that's him in his everyday life.
Yeah, and we also are perpetually seeing Armsmaster from an outside point of view. I bet if we got an interlude from him, we'd change our opinion a
I
little
don't know
bit.
if I would. He seems very, very attached to protecting his reputation above all else.
Oh, well,
which is the thing I don't think I would be a fan of.
Probably not. No, that does seem like a very damning personality trait in the long run. And Taylor, I think, has the best response to this. She's like she's playing 4D chess, like above Armsmaster's head and to the entirety of their conversation, because she's like, if I say something wrong, Lisa, Tattletale's powers are going to pick up that I said something wrong, and I can't let Armsmaster know that. So she's like, she's playing it really safe in this conversation, and definitely showing off more of her intelligence that we noted in the first few arcs. And
I think Armsmaster is taking that definitely as like the, ooh, you're actually a bad guy stuff.
Or
he definitely sees the intelligence.
I can definitely see where Armsmaster is coming from, though, where he's like, undercover police officers have handlers, you have no one. But Taylor's response is, if I had someone, they would know about that, and that is wrong. Like, that would fail. This is the only way that would work to infiltrate the Undersiders. Which is true, but also, like, so genuinely stupid. Like, so dangerous what Taylor is walking the line for, if we didn't think that she would not if she's not going to full-heartedly cross the line eventually and stay firmly on the side of the Undersiders at some point in time.
Especially since we know Armsmaster is not going to go out of his way if he finds out that Taylor's civilian identity, which I'm willing to bet that they have some eyes on that now, went missing. He's definitely not the type of person to go out of his way to check in on her.
Yeah, and I think you're assuming a lot of them. I don't think they have any intention of looking into Bugs, or should we get her? I will let you know that this is going to be her villain name for a while, Skitter, her official name. We get Skitter's name. I don't think they're going to look into Skitter's real identity. I don't think they're going to dig into Taylor, because that seems like a line Lisa mentioned in her Cops and Robbers philosophical, this is why they don't reveal villain identities to the public, even when they're captured. It's part of that, you're crossing the line if you reveal a Cape's identity, one way or the other.
Which is a really interesting thing, because it like went for everyone, like even a criminal, like you just don't do that, like you just don't do that, which isn't a really interesting thing that probably even the hero community is aware of. Like, we don't go after their civilian identities.
And what did we think about Lisa's opinion on the Cops and Robbers way that heroes and villains, Cape societies function?
I completely agreed that it was more of a cat and mouse game, as she said, that like they definitely prompt them to be able to escape, because it's more like the way she put it was a sports team. Everyone liked being able to root for the heroes, and you can't do that without someone to fight. But you want to do the less violent people. So those violent and horrible people.
And I almost think this is highlighted from director Pidgeot's. She's like, in the interlude chapter, she basically says she didn't care about the money at all. She cares about the reputation of the wards, of the Capes, of the Protectorate, so she can keep getting funding for them, because it's a government-funded organization. Which I think is low-key confirms Lisa's thought process on things. Taylor didn't seem to agree. I would have liked to see Taylor actually interject, but I understand why she could not insert her real thoughts on why the world didn't work like that in front of Lisa, knowing her power. But they rob a bank. I would like to point out why they rob a bank, first of all. They rob a bank not because their boss is telling them to rob a bank. He just wants them to commit a flashy crime at a particular time. And he's willing to give them a ridiculously good deal to do so. Even Brian points out that that seems stupid and kind of suspicious, but they do it, and they successfully, as he asked, as they, or their boss, he or she, asked.
Side-eyeing that correction. But yeah.
I did not get far enough in the words in this book to really know that information. I will say.
I totally believe you.
I mean, while I was reading, I had suspicions about who it was, and those suspicions have not changed. But
yeah, and the particular deal that their boss gave was he's willing to meet them 2 for 1, whatever they grabbed from the bank. So he's willing to give them twice as much money as they nabbed,
and pay for all the equipment.
Yeah, and pay for everything, which I think was the vans that they bought and abandoned, and they had a whole bunch of stuff that they just took and dropped, which would have been pricey. And then the other thing he said was, if you don't steal enough for me to pay out $25,000, I will just give you the $25,000, whichever's more.
Yeah, so they definitely stole more than $25,000 from this bank. They got away with so much money. I think they got away with all the money the bank had. With almost all the money the bank had in any case. And some important documents that the boss also wanted to buy off of them as well. Why do we think the boss wanted them to not write like a flashy crime at this point in time, like at a specific time while the protectorate was busy?
I have a sneaking suspicion he knew who was going to be in the bank, and this was some sort of test.
Oh, like maybe targeting Panacea and Glory Girl? Or not Glory Girl, because she wasn't in the bank, but Panacea in particular. Because we do know that Amy Dalton has a villain for a father. We don't know who. They attacked him at his home, which is supposedly a Cape No-No type deal thing.
But it doesn't sound like anyone's particularly upset about that.
No, but it was also like 10 years ago, more than 10 years ago, so.
True.
And I imagine Cape politics have changed since that time as well. So maybe the plan has something to do with Panacea, because she has a very powerful ability.
And it seems like she's very afraid of that moral gray that she seems to be towing the line of, but not crossing.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting juxtaposition between Taylor's moral gray that she's towing into the blackness and the moral gray that Amy is towing, but pulling herself into being a good person, trying desperately to anyway.
Yeah, we definitely do see in the interlude that is more of a chore than she signed up for.
I mean, if you had a power that could literally save anyone before they died, imagine the amount of pressure, especially as a kid.
Yeah, and there's the fact that the unfortunate truth that most people would try and monetize that and would offer themselves as a type of medicine, which is not what Amy does, so you have to give her props for that.
I don't think she would be legally allowed to. Even if that idea crossed their mind, I don't know if you would be legally allowed to do that if you're not an underground evil villain doctor-esque Cape.
Your abilities are much more useful than being an underground evil doctor.
Oh yes. Some of the most powerful kid capes in the scene, according to Taylor, which I would agree with for Panacea. I don't know about Glory Girl, who gets taken out by Tattletales just absolutely psychologically destroying the two of them. We know Tattletale was lying throughout the entirety of that whole thing, but we should probably back up first and go over the scene of them robbing the bank. So they break in the bank, they do a hostage situation of which Taylor is in charge of. She's traumatized so many people. She even says, I'm going to hell for this.
Yeah, could you imagine being in a bank and then they break in and they're like, oh yeah, and you have like at least 2 Black Widow spiders on your body that I will tell to bite you repeatedly if you try shit. Like, that is more horrifying than anything.
I would cry if I had non-poisonous spiders on me. Much less more than one. If and they were poisonous and could kill me, I would pass out.
Yeah, Ashley wouldn't do so good in that.
No, I'm desperately scared of bugs.
I would have stopped, dropped, spiders. And rolled.
It wouldn't have worked though, because they would have bit as soon as you tried to do that, and you would be dead, Cassidy. I mean, Taylor probably wouldn't have killed you, but if the Skinner supervillain was actually a villain in this scenario, you would be dead. You would be dead, Cassidy. Don't say you would be dead. You're not immortal.
No, it would cause enough panic though, because you only focus on a couple things at a time.
No, but would you really want to put not just yourself in danger, but everyone else around you in danger by doing that?
That is fair. That is fair.
See, I am the logic of this podcast. Cassidy's the impulse, and I am the impulse control.
Yeah, I don't know what that is, nor do I possess it.
But as they're robbing the bank, more than one of the wards, like pretty much the whole ward team shows up, which was not to their plan. They thought 3 or 4 people were going to show up, which I think does show the gaps in information that Telltale's power has a little bit. She's not omnipotent. She can't tell everything. She doesn't realize that Panacea is in the bank. She doesn't realize that it's Glory Girl on the roof. Because I think from her power's point of view, she would have had no way to figure that out. And her power only lets her tells her thing that she would have been able to figure out on her own.
Yeah, she has have a little bit of that starting information.
And she had none of it in this point, and that shows a glaring weakness on her power's part, which is kind of reassuring from our perspective, since we are, as Taylor is, relying on Taylor's luck that Lisa's power doesn't just fill in. She's a villain. She's gonna betray your group. Gonna betray the Undertriders to the heroes.
And I find it really interesting how startled Taylor was when she was like, "You mean that was just an educated guess?"
Yeah, because Tattletale never specifies when she is using her power or not when she's talking, really. So, yeah, you would kind of be like, if Tattletale says something, you kind of assume she's right in most instances, because that's how her power works. And if she doesn't say explicitly, "I am just guessing, that is not my power," just from the way she talks, you would assume it was her power.
Yeah, because I feel that her power would have informed her on some of those things, like response time and the pattern of, it did mention how not all of the wards can just up and leave high school, otherwise someone would catch on to their identities if they did that every time.
It looks like all the wards up and left high school though.
Yeah, so it does make sense that she'd be able to draw more educated guesses than regular people, but at the same time.
Speaking of the wards, let's go over them. So the main 3 that the Undersiders identified as the biggest threats are Aegis, Clockblocker, and Vista. Aegis and Clockblocker tried something really clever that if it weren't for Tattletale's powers, the Undersiders would have been beaten before the fight even began. They switched costumes before the fight to try to throw them off, which was really clever and totally foiled. And then used against them. But Aegis is the leader of the team, as the senior member, the oldest. He is functionally invulnerable in a very weird way.
I honestly really like that ability. The way they explained it is, Taylor herself put it the best way, that he was kind of like a human cockroach. And he had no weak point. Yeah.
Which is terrifying, some of the descriptions of what bitch had her dogs do to him, pull him around like a rag doll. He really went all out on him. But I felt so bad for them at the end.
They got pummeled.
And oh my god, what Taylor did to Clockblocker. Ignoring the stupidity and stupidity of the name, Clockblocker, again, teenage boys naming themselves. He's gonna regret that when he's 30 and a cape with that name still.
I don't think he will.
He didn't seem like the type to, but I felt so bad for him. What happened was his power can freeze things in time that he touches. He can't control how long they're frozen, anywhere from 10 seconds to 10 minutes. He got Taylor. At first Taylor wanted to trap him outside himself by making him freeze all the bugs, but he's smart apparently, and he didn't do that. So Taylor decided to do something worse and had the bugs crawl inside his costume, go to his nose, his mouth, under his eyelids, into his ears, anything to get him to trip up. And he, panicking, used his power to try to like stop them from crawling in his body. And Taylor even was like, "Oh, wait, what? Why did you do that?" And like she didn't understand why someone would panic and do that when they're surrounded by bugs, and pulled her bugs away so he wouldn't suffocate on spiders.
Because he froze them in his throat, which essentially pinned his head in place.
It pinned he like pinned his whole self to the ground. But oh my god, when they came trudging back in, completely defeated, I was like, I don't want to root for the Undersiders anymore. I love them. Bless their hearts. I love all of them. But God, the Wards are good too. And they have a clear team dynamic. Like, Aegis was defending his teammates, and they were standing up for each other in a very, like, comforting, we are teammates way that I don't know if the Undersiders would do for each other.
No, because there's definitely still that animosity between Bitch and Taylor that can't be ignored.
Yeah, and also,
I don't know if that's something that will go away with time.
Like, I don't know if some of them were in life or death danger, or were like getting in. Let's say their boss reveals themselves, marches in, and tells them, "Okay, all of you did great, except that one person." They would not stand up for themselves. They would be like, "Oh, that's more money for me," if they got their cut taken away.
Which really clearly shows of why this group of kids became villains and this group of kids became heroes.
And I think I think Galliant phrased it best in the interlude when he's like, he was talking to Panacea, he's like, we all are at risk for falling down that path. And I think it shows something, that these are children that are taking time to save people's lives with amazing superpowers, and an organization that is kind of unfriendly with them. And that shows a strength of character that Taylor's strong, but she does not put up with people talking down to her very well because of her.
She doesn't.
I don't think she would do very well in the wards because of that. I don't think she, no offense to Taylor, has the strength of morality at the moment because she doesn't have enough people supporting her to be able to do that.
Yeah, but I also feel that the wards would have been so good for her.
They would have too. If she had gone to the wards first, they would have been friends.
They would have been such good friends.
Like, Galliant seems like a group therapist in the form of a kind of cute teenage guy.
It described him as really cute. Just saying.
And Clock Blocker, for all his terrible name, seemed alright. Aegis seemed really cool. Vista is adorable. Kidwin is a mess in his own way, but he's trying.
And the others are supporting him, and that's all that matters.
They have a good team dynamic, and we only met them for the bank robbery and the interlude. And the interlude really cemented me as liking the wards. They would have been good for Taylor. And she might, if she had met them first, if she had accepted Armsmaster's deal to go to the wards, this story would be so different. It would be a story about recovery from trauma and dealing with your issues in a healthy manner, but that's not Taylor.
And the new lack of bullying she would face if she was suddenly surrounded by very popular people.
She would also be transferred to Arcadia High as a ward. She would have transferred high schools. Yeah. Come on!
Which is where her father was trying to get her transferred.
I mean,
and that was mentioned earlier.
Joining the wards would solve a lot of problems for Taylor. As someone who's read farther in this book, it would not solve all of them, but it would solve so much of them. It does not happen, and we can only wish that in an alternate universe, Taylor's living a happy life as a member of the Wards with a name better than Skinner.
Or what was the name of the alternate Earth Alf?
Earth Alf.
Yes, let's hope that Taylor on Earth Alf went and joined the
Okay,
Wards.
can we talk about how casually the idea of alternate Earths were dropped?
Yeah, and it was really interesting because Professor Haywire, who was the one who apparently created Earth Alf, or at least discovered it by tearing a hole in reality.
Yeah,
they were just so chill, and they were.
And the only thing they can transfer back and forth is media. So books, TV, and they were watching Earth Elf's version of the Star Wars episodes.
Yeah, and it's such an interesting thing too, because in media spans a lot. So like documentaries from Earth Alf, you get to learn a lot about this alternate Earth. But like that sounds like a very Tinker-esque name.
Maybe he did it with like a device.
Yeah, either that or if someone has the ability to tear holes in reality, which isn't as hard to believe with look at the abilities that we got today, like with
Vista can bend space, and Clock Blocker can stop time. Those are pretty reality breaking. And Aegis is effectively immortal. So, I mean, all of those things.
And they also touched on how Kaiser, one of the villains...
He's the leader of Empire 88.
Which is the...
Skinhead group.
Skinhead, white supremacist, racist group. Apparently, he can summon metal out of thin air, which breaks so many laws of physics and matter.
So much physics. And they brought up one effect that seems constant for all but the most powerful of capes, and that is the Manton effect, which is a superhero cape they brought up called Narwhal, who can apparently make force fields through other people and like cut them in half, which is horrifying. But he's a hero, I think, so... Narwhal can break the Manton effect, which is an effect that basically means for people that aren't of the master classification, their powers can't affect living things.
Yeah, which in Vista's case means she can bend reality around people, but she cannot stretch, squish, or smash individuals with her physics bending powers.
But it implies that some powers can, maybe through training or hard work, or like the way the power works. So maybe one day Vista will be able to do that, horrifyingly enough.
And it is also implied that the younger that you are when you get your abilities, the more powerful you inevitably will be.
It is called a myth. We don't know if it's like a fact in the world building, but it's what people are theorizing, sort of. Seeing all these young, really powerful capes does, I think, put a little merit to that idea.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to talk about some names that are dropped in relation to villains that, according to Lisa, cross the line in the games of cops and robbers. The Slaughterhouse Nine, Nilbog, and as Taylor brings up, the Endbringers. I think it really drives a point home when even Lisa, it's like, you're being morbid for even talking about the Endbringers. And we get the name of one of the Endbringers named Smurg. The Smurg.
Who is the only other individual that was said to be psychic, if I remember that correctly?
Said to be able to read minds, yep.
Yes.
Which, I mean, Tattletale was so bullshitting about her ability to read minds. But she was doing it with such finesse that she had everyone convinced. Even Taylor was like, if I did not for sure know that was not the truth, I would have believed her.
Yeah, especially since she already had partially convinced Taylor of that as a joke in the beginning.
She's omniscient.
Yeah, stuff like that holds a lot of weight too when you're spitting I know who your daddy is and you don't, like she did at Amy.
Oh my god, just the way Lisa, or Tattletale in this case, tore into Amy and Glory Girl, a relationship, is startling, to say the least.
And truly a show of actually how offensive Tattletale's powers can get, rather than the normal defensive.
Yeah, and it shows the level, I think, that Tattletale once again brings up the importance of information, how it is the most effective weapon, and how she has it in spades, which makes her the one who's on top in the whole interaction. We also get to see the team's powers and actions against the wards. Again, felt so bad for them. I will not lie, I did laugh when Regent joined the fight, though, because he destroyed Kid Win.
That was so funny, especially since he did it with such, like, boredom, and, like, he didn't really want to be there.
He did it in the way that Alec does everything, which is flippant sarcasm. He destroyed Kidwin in the same way he made Brian trip. And then he casually walked over and tasered him, and then tasered all of his stuff, destroying it.
After totally using Kidwin's technology to barrage his own teammates to keep him down.
I mean, we really see how, and it is implied that Regent took out the other ward. What was his name? Started with a B. He's the he had minor telepathic abilities.
Something brow, wrist brow.
Browbeater, maybe.
Browbeater. Yeah, I believe it was Browbeater.
It's implied that he took out Browbeater in the darkness.
Yeah, he was screaming something about bugs, which makes me even more curious about Regent's abilities.
I think that might have been implied that Gru was using his darkness to make himself look bigger and pretending to be a Browbeater, so Vista would be thrown off guard when he punched her.
Huh.
Also, Gru punched a 12-year-old child. I don't care if she's a ward. She's like 12, 13.
I also appreciate how they included the detail about they were trying to fool people about how old Vista was and put, like, fake boobs on her chest plate.
I feel like she probably designed that herself, though.
That is fair. But it's an interesting thing to try and subvert when everyone's like, especially since, like, they were so clearly fake that Taylor from the window was like, I don't think that's right, but okay.
You're 12, we'll let you get away with it. I mean, you're 12-year-old with one of the most terrifying powers in existence, and when you make it to adulthood, you will be horrifying. But hopefully, I mean,
still not flat-chested, I guess, but
I guess that for as long as this arc was, I don't think a lot happened, but they robbed a bank. That was the scenario of which this arc took place in. What thoughts do you have? Anything else you wanted to talk about before I get into some other things?
There was a couple things touched on in the earlier chapters, like what happened in January? Like, that keeps getting hinted at by Taylor's bullies and Taylor and her dad.
I don't know. What happened in January, listeners?
Thank you. Oh, yes. Yes.
Just so you know, we're posting these in bulk, so you will not be able to spoil it.
No, I can hear the spoilers. I'm getting them in my brain.
What are they saying?
Oh my god, that's horrible. What to her? She did what to them? Oh no. She did what to herself?
I have a feeling your reactions will be more genuine when we actually get the summary of what happened to Taylor in January, which we will get eventually in the story. That is clear, that it is a bomb just waiting to go off. I think that it is likely that the names Lisa drew, because this is such a long story, the Slaughterhouse 9, Nilbog, and the Endbringers, we will probably encounter some of them throughout the story, so keep those names in mind. She also brings up bitch in the list of names of people who are psychos who take the game too seriously, according to Lisa, which I thought was interesting. And we also get the revelation from Armsmaster, and this is a game I wanted to play with you. Welcome to the game. Who's that murderer? There are 2 murderers and the Undersiders. We have 4 options. Who are the 2 that you're putting your money on out of Rachel, Brian, Lisa, and Alec?
Lisa and Alec.
Okay, so listeners, we're putting that in the prediction section. So Lisa and Alec as murderers. I do know the answer to this, so I'm not allowed to bet. But we will keep that in mind for when it is inevitably revealed. What is your thought process behind this? And why not Rachel?
Rachel is angry and destructive and doesn't hold herself back very well, but I don't think she would just prompt herself to kill someone, especially since it's already been hinted at that, like, she has to give her dogs a very specific command to not hold back.
And why not Brian?
I just don't want it to be Brian.
That's just your hope. So why Lisa and Alec?
Alec, it's very easy to believe that someone with his abilities would accidentally kill someone and then have it blamed on him for a purposeful murder, because anything to do with your nerves, falling down a staircase,
yeah,
and it's hard to be like it was involuntary manslaughter when you have superhuman abilities that caused that death.
Oh my god, we're gonna see an interlude that shows how the justice system deals with people with powers that are not capes, that have committed crimes accidentally. I think you'll enjoy them. I think it's this. We get some more information on the birdcage, the prison, being literally just a place where they dump supervillains that has no supervision. Just no one has escaped from there. There's no wardens in the birdcage. It's just inescapable. Which is horrifying.
And also leads you to wonder, like, what kind of hell are those people going through?
And they mentioned it twice. There has to be a breakout coming up from the birdcage, right?
Yeah, you don't put a gun in a scene without using it.
Like Lung's gonna come back. Murder Kit.
I don't think it's gonna be Lung.
You don't think it's gonna be Lung? You think it's gonna be someone else?
I think it's going to be someone. I think it's going to be someone that was mentioned in the background, but I think Lung is pretty much down for the count.
It's implied that Amy's dad might have been sent to the birdcage, so maybe him.
Maybe, but I do think if that dramatic plot twist is going to happen, it will be after Amy is aware of who he is. So I think that we can use that as a marker to determine if that is coming up or not.
Okay. So we're keeping an eye out on the does Amy know who her dad is counter.
And it was kind of hinted at that Glory Girl, or Victoria, I believe that's her name.
Mm-hmm. Victoria Dalton.
Knows, if not at least suspects, because Tattletale let that slip and was like, oh, I was able to piece it together from what you have in your brain. And there was kind of a reaction when Glory Girl. Did
Tattletale actually know this stuff, though? Does she just know that Amy does not know who her father is and was completely and utterly playing them? Because it's implied that Victoria or Amy, neither of them actually know, because Victoria didn't look into it. That's what Tattletale got with her power, that Victoria was respecting her sister's boundaries and not looking into it, which is an interesting thing from what we know about Glory Girl. She doesn't seem like the type who'd hold herself back in that manner. So I don't know. I guess she perhaps a little closer to her family, holds them in a little higher regard than we originally thought.
Yeah. I think I personally think she does know. I think she knows 100%. Because it'd be so easy to be like, who from the media does this girl resemble? And it'll be like, oh, her father.
They don't reveal supervillain names in the media. Taylor said that.
I thought they said, ooh, that is true.
They don't reveal cape identities. They attacked him at her home, but that doesn't mean that they made his identity public after he was captured.
That is fair. He also went to the birdcage, which I honestly think that if you're going to the birdcage, maybe having your civilian identity released is a good idea. You remember that one guy you sold flowers to? Maybe if you see him again, call the police or something.
Well, they don't do that for whatever the reason. And Taylor thought that was confusing, and that's when she went to Lisa to be like, why do you think they don't do that? And Lisa was like, oh, cops and robbers game.
Yeah.
Eyes lighting up because this is one of her favorite things to talk about. I mean, I can reciprocate. Talking about the world of Worm is also one of my favorite things to talk about officially. I think I can say that when we have a podcast about it.
I'm a character person. Always have been, always will be.
Then we
I much prefer.
represent two halves of a full whole that is Worm. Anyway, overall thoughts and opinions on this chapter before I want to go once more down your opinion on each of the characters that we got this chapter and your updated opinions on them.
Lee Hit. That's my overall thought on this chapter.
Okay.
There you go.
Then let's start with our main character, as always, Taylor.
She is sprinting down that slippery slope at this point, especially with all the whooping and hollering she did in celebration for successfully robbing a bank.
Yeah, that is not something a person does when they are spying. That is something a person does after they've robbed a bank and, like Lisa said, are rolling around in money.
Hundreds and thousands of dollars, likely.
Yeah, because they're going to get the cut doubled.
And selling whatever information that they got.
Even more money on top of that. Is that not crazy? Taylor went from having no more than $500 in her bank account to being rich in like the span of like 2 days. Who said crime doesn't pay?
But it was also interesting that she's like, I don't feel good spending the money, but I don't think that sentiment is going to last.
I don't think it's going to last once she has that much money. You can't hide that much money in a coal chute in your basement. You're going to have to do something with it, and that something might be spending it. And now she has 3 disposable phones, when before she had 0 phones. So, I mean, her life is ratcheting up very quickly. The story is moving forward at a breakneck pace, which I love about Worm, is that it does not pause.
It doesn't seem to slow.
Because that sort of mimics the way Taylor is rolling down the cliff of morality.
Into that nice inky black water that seems Glory Girl already took a head first dive into.
I think we can revise our opinion of Glory Girl a little bit, because if she wanted to, Glory Girl could just be a villain. She has not murdered anyone yet. Granted, neither has Taylor. So I think Glory Girl has also not robbed a bank. I think Taylor's a little lower than Glory Girl sitting right now.
Yes, but
they're
I
not
feel
high on the morality spectrum. I think Panacea might be sitting pretty at the top. She's thought about doing a lot of bad things, but she's not acted on those thoughts.
And she threatens quite a bit, but Tattletale was able to.
Tattletale, she's all bark, no bite. She's not going to do that. Because I think part of Amy, much like Taylor was like, if I give my bullies lice, I don't trust myself to stop. I think Amy's like, if I start using my powers to twist people around to do those things, where is the line? I don't think I'll stop.
Yes, because
we haven't actually between Amy and Taylor, which is a lot of parallels drawn between the two of them, which is interesting.
Yeah, and we also actually haven't gotten much of Amy using her powers offensively, except for creating that feedback loop with Taylor and her bugs.
And that was more to protect herself and the hostages than to hurt Taylor. I think it's implied that almost that the pain that came from that might have even been accidental. She was just trying to make it so Taylor could not sense that the hostages were escaping up the back.
Yeah, so that is an interesting thing, that she very clearly has the ability to cause some serious damage and threatens it quite often, but would never, ever cross
the line, which I think is an interesting parallel. So moving on from Taylor, let us jump into the other Undersiders, starting with Brian. Owns his own apartment, online school, can teach Taylor how to dismantle a human being. Brian, what do we think?
Weird outfit changes.
He's blending in with his surroundings to not draw attention, which
that makes a lot more sense.
Did you miss that?
I did.
Did you miss Taylor being like, "Oh, he looks nice in the Brockton Bay area where they're like in the boardwalk where there are tourists and expensive shops. He looks like he should be shopping here."
No, I was getting too much.
And in the docks, he looks run down, cheaper clothing, like he should be there.
No, I was getting too much residual thirsty Taylor to really pick up on the
around
details.
The important information. You were just getting too much thirst. It was blinding you. Okay, well, What did you think of Brian? Any opinion changes on Brian?
I like Brian, but I don't like him.
You like Brian, but you don't like Gru.
Yeah, that is, yeah. And
Much like
Gru
Taylor.
has no regard for, like, civilian safety, which I don't expect supervillains to do, but, like, the rest of them were like, let's not cause property damage, and, you know, and let's not, at least Taylor was like, hey, let's not kill people, and everyone, including Gru / Brian, didn't seem to, like, share that sentiment.
No, I think he did, because he told Bitch multiple times that she wasn't allowed to kill people with their dogs. She wasn't allowed to maim them either. The only person she could go full power on was Aegis, because he could take it.
Yeah,
And
that is true.
I think it's because maybe some of the Undersiders share Lisa's opinion on how the world works, and they know if they kill civilians robbing a bank, they're crossing that line.
Yeah, the cat and mouse line.
I don't
right?
think it
At
has
this
anything
point,
to do with the value of civilian lives. I think it has to do with knowing their place on the hierarchy and knowing what they'll be able to deal with, and it's not crossing that line. They're not powerful enough for that.
Yeah. And it's definitely at this point, they are not a nuisance enough and not bad enough and haven't done enough high-profile stuff to go to the birdcage. So it'd be one of those scenarios where they put them in regular person jail and they
Yeah.
disappear before court.
We get a brief mention of the 3-strike law, which is, I'm assuming, you get arrested 3 times and you have superpowers, you go to the birdcage.
Which is terrifying, especially since there's probably like especially I'm assuming that there has been more than one criminal that gets a fast pass to the birdcage.
I'm sure there has been. Like, Lung probably got a fast blast to the birdcage.
Yeah, because it did mention how he hadn't been arrested despite all of the stuff he did prior to Taylor fighting him.
Let's continue moving down the list. Evolved opinions of Rachel.
She's a little more chill than I thought she was, which I'm a fan of, but at the same time, I didn't think much of her to begin with, so it's not speaking bounds about her personality that I'm surprised about how chill she is.
Okay. Moving down the list, Lisa.
I'm terrified of her.
She's my favorite character. I love her. She's great. Lisa's my favorite.
I don't know what I would do if I met her, because
she's terrifying.
She can dismantle you psychologically with like three
glances. Effort on her part. Her power is terrifying. The importance of information in the Wormverse has been very clearly highlighted, mostly thanks to Lisa's ability. But I love her all the same. She's just so good.
Yeah, she's kind of awesome.
I love the way that she was so completely behind Taylor when Taylor sort of like, yeah, I got in an argument with a person, and Lisa immediately went, well, fuck them.
And that's the type of energy that Taylor needs.
She needs that in her life. But
I don't think she needs it from
Lisa.
I think she needs it from like a ward.
We wish it was coming. We wish it was coming from, I don't know, like Clock Blocker.
Yes. Except I could not take any advice given from someone who calls themselves Clock Blocker.
And I think Taylor has enough sense that she wouldn't either. Maybe Vista. I mean, Vista's 13, so she'd probably phase it a little different than just fuck them, but if it come from Vista.
I don't know. She hangs out with teenage superheroes. I'm pretty sure fuck them would also be her go-to.
Maybe, yeah. Okay. Full go. We wish it came from Vista.
Absolutely.
In our alternate universe, this came from Vista, and they were on their way to go stop the Undersiders from robbing a bank.
In our alternate universe, Taylor only got bullied up to the point where her powers manifested, and then the shit calmed down, and she is happy and healthy.
And she's in Arcadia High School. She's part of the wards. She's living her best life. She's not with the Undersiders. I love the Undersiders, and I will continue to love them. But they are not good people.
No.
Speaking of more of the Undersiders, Alec.
Alec is so nonchalant about everything he does, and it makes me love him.
He's funny to read. The way when Taylor asks Brian to teach her stuff. The way she phrases it is poorly phrased, and
It was
Alex
definitely
bursts out
that's
laughing.
what she said moment.
Yeah. Brian's also confirmed the youngest Undersider at 15.
Yeah.
And Brian is 2 or 3 years older than Taylor. That as well.
Or Alec.
Yeah. But from Alec, and is older than Taylor as well. Which is interesting to note that the most nonchalant and chillaxed of them is the youngest.
Yeah, so sarcastic, and I love it.
It's pretty great to read. And I think we know, like, we don't know the most about Alec's personal life, but we know the most about him, like, as a person.
Yeah, like he has a hobby.
He likes to draw, he likes to play video games, he has normal teenage hobbies.
Which we don't see with the other ones. It seems like being a villain is their hobby, which cannot be
I'm assuming dogs is Rachel's hobby, though. Training
is that
and taking care of
I mean, I guess
care
it
of
makes
dogs.
If you have 3 large dogs, my dog is enough, but oh my god. Okay.
Dogs
yeah.
that need to be like trained for combat. I imagine that's what Rachel spends her time doing. And Gru has like an apartment and a life outside of, so he probably also does the Taylor thing of keeping them separate, and he does his hobbies and stuff at his apartment and not with the Undersiders. Lisa, though, I think Lisa's hobby is definitely being a supervillain, because she talks about it in such like a, oh, we're doing such dastardly deeds. She says those words. She says dastardly deeds. Not with a straight face, but multiple times.
Yeah.
Her hobby's being a supervillain.
Definitely. And I don't think I actually touched on it with Rachel. And now that I'm trying to bounce back to it, I forget what I was going to say. So never mind. Moving on.
We'll continue to go down the list of characters. Let's talk about our updated opinions on Glory Girl. Victoria Dalton.
I have a little bit more respect for her because she did show some restraint in that fight, but also at the same time caused a vast majority of the property damage.
So much property damage. She busted through a wall. She broke a table for literally no reason other than to show off. So I mean, yeah. Amy. Panacea.
I love Amy as a character.
She's pretty great. She, I think, is a very good foil for Taylor's experience, and she keeps being brought back up. So I think that is sort of her narrative function as well.
And you can't help but being, if I got to choose an ability, which is not how the Wormverse works.
Not at all. We made a Weaver Dice character. It's all random, even in the RPG system.
Oh my gosh.
It was great. Anyway.
Crazy. If I got to choose an ability, I would want a healing ability. But the way she does put it makes it more of a moral question than you originally think about when you're like, I want to be able to heal people. You're like, yeah. But can you really heal people? You can't. You can only heal who you can contact, get near. It takes time.
Once again, props to Wildbow for not only his creativity with the creating of the powers, but the way he understands the psychological effects of having them, like would affect a person, much less a teenager who has to deal with school and other responsibilities on top of being a superhero.
And in more of a complex way than I'm sad, I need a man. Like,
yeah, I love. I'm very happy with Amy. Amy is a nice character on the hero side that we can gravitate to and have a nice emotional feelings toward. But let's move on to more of the heroes that we get, because we do learn a fair bit about all of the wards. So we're gonna run down them and get your quick opinions on all of them. But starting with the leader, Aegis.
He seems totally chill, and and we already mentioned that he kind of stuck up for his team and showed that kind of group dynamic. I am 100% on board for that character.
Yeah, and he's also the oldest.
His ability.
And is soon to be leaving for the Protectorate main headquarters. The next oldest, is Clock Blocker. His name will never not be amusing.
His
We are all
ability is
12.
awesome. I can't with the name.
And he seems pretty cool. Aegis is pretty much his second. Seems fairly responsible. Actually much chiller in personality for the name that he has.
He definitely said that ironically, and it stuck. And I want there to be a story behind the name so badly.
I want him to not understood the innuendo, because his name works, because he's stopping time. He is blocking the clock from moving forward.
Now that you say that, I want it to be like a 12-year-old clock blocker that's like, hey. Like,
that's a cool name,
first,
right?
Yeah, first solo hero thing, and they're interviewed by media. What's your name? I'm a Clock Blocker.
And everyone snickers when he doesn't understand. Anyway, my opinion on Clock Blocker is fairly positive. Mostly because I feel such a deep amount of sympathy toward him and his spider-related nightmares that he will have.
Just because you're afraid of bugs.
I might have spider-related nightmares just reading the scene. I can't imagine experiencing that. Vista, the youngest, the junior member of the team, implied to have a crush on Galliant. She's adorable.
Cute. I'm behind that character 100%. Cute.
And moving on to Glory Girl's boyfriend, Galliant.
I like him. I do think I would also be uncomfortable with his ability, because it mentioned how he's able to see emotional auras around people.
And you can't
I don't think I'd be chill with that.
You could always see what you're feeling. And I think that it's in the same way you would be uncomfortable talking to Tattletale that you would be uncomfortable talking to Galliant. Because they know something about you, and you have no way to control. You have no way to mask your emotions or hide your thoughts or what you're feeling right now, because their powers fill in the blanks for them.
Yeah, and in regards to, like, Tattletale, like, I don't have much to hide. All she can discover that I don't kind of wear on my chest is my master dumbassery.
But she can sense. She could probably get what you're feeling in the same way that Clockblocker could. She calls out Taylor for being short with her and being tired. She knows that Taylor was shy when she was just not talking.
Yeah,
she could fill in the as easily as Galliant could. Galliant, however, power is it's more clearly laid out than Tattletale's. So we are more, I think, prone to dislike that, because it is his power gives everyone a mood ring. It's also implied that Amy had a crush on Galliant at some point too. And I think it was
either implied that she had a crush on Galliant or either really, really disliked him.
It's strong emotions, either in one way or the other. She either had a crush on him before her sister got there, or hated him before her sister got there.
Which is
from what's implied about her opinion on his powers, it might have been more of a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm. And I kind of am afraid of it being the former, that she had a major, major crush on him, and he kind of turned her down, which soured her.
I don't think it's implied that he turned her down. I think it is implied that Victoria just asked him out first. And we do know that Victoria has a cheating power. She can make people make people like her with her ability.
Ooh, that bothers me to my core.
It bothers me too. I'm not gonna lie. We don't know enough about Victoria to know if she'd manipulate people in that way.
I think we know plenty, and I think she totally would.
Okay. Well, our opinion of Victoria is very low. But what is our opinion on Galliant? Just as I said, he's like the built-in group therapist. He's clearly the group mom.
He definitely gives off golden boy vibes.
He's the group.
Especially,
he's not the golden boy. He's the group mom.
But he totally played into I keep forgetting her name, and I feel so bad. he totally played into Vista's crush on him.
Yes, absolutely.
And was like,
because he
hey.
can't not know what someone feels about him.
Especially if someone who's so bad at hiding it like Vista is.
Yeah. I think that's accurate, though. If you're a 13-year-old girl with superpowers.
Which is so cute.
I think genuinely that might be your reaction to someone like Galliant. Who is the living up to his name as Director Pidgeot. I love that their name for Pidgeot is Piggy. When they're not her face, they call her Piggy.
I
These
do like that.
Clockblocker does. I think that's fun. Especially because our impressions are not great of her.
No. And she makes it very clear that she's not a huge fan of them either.
Yeah, she's not great with kids. We like Vista. Let's talk about Kid Win, who broke some rules breaking out his laser pistol, only to have Regent just snipe it and make the battle go so much worse.
I don't know if I could get behind, like, we haven't had enough character interaction with him for us to know if, like, we like him as a character. But, like,
we have judged people on less.
Those seem like some very strictly laid out rules for some very good reasons.
I think it's implied that he has been testing the rules since he became a cape. He's seeing how far he can get in some of the dialogue. So we do have some bit of personality.
That little bit of rebelliousness.
I don't know if it's rebelliousness or obliviousness. His name is Kid Win.
It's almost as bad as Glory Girl, in my opinion.
Almost as bad. And the fact that he did not win only makes his name so much better. I also like a glimpse into the world building of it would look when they're giving Skitter her name. They're like, oh, she did something bad. We should give her a bad name. We'll stick her with Maggot or something. And Clockbucker's like, no, that would look bad if we did that. Because we lost. If we won, maybe we could get away with that. But because we lost, we have to stick her with a decent name, or else that would look bad to the media. We'd look like sore losers.
Which is, and it is kind of falling into what Piggy asked of the, I need to protect your guys' I need to make sure we get funding so you guys have to look good.
Being a cape, especially part of the PRT, and even part of like groups like New Wave, you're a public figure. You have action figures, you have merchandise, you're a celebrity. You're like Lisa mentioned, you're part of the hometown sports team. You're a big deal.
People are rooting for you.
So your public image is a big deal.
And it kind of sounded like the same was true for some of the villains. And in earlier chapters, it had mentioned like color themes and like just overall gang themes that were kind of funny, like the video game themed villains.
Uber and Lee. Can we talk?
Yeah.
You haven't met them yet. I hope we do. Uber and Lee. They're great. Anyway, I'm a fan of a villain that has a video game theme.
I mean, it's hard not to be.
If I was running a bank and them dressed up like the Super Mario Brothers came in to rob my bank, I might pay them. You've entertained me because of this.
And I'm being robbed and I'm entertained. Like, yeah, go for it.
I mean, seriously, insurance will cover this.
It will. And insurance will replace all of that money. So,
I mean, take it, I guess. We get a lot of hints in this arc, just partially due to its length, I think, of more concerning things about the world, like Earth Elf, a group of supervillains called the Endbringers, which, good God, what does that imply about them?
Especially since they have apparently a psychic in their rank.
A psychic, and it's implied that is not the Smurg's only superpower. Like, that's a part of what she can do.
Which is terrifying.
Horrifying. And they clearly crossed the line and then there's like the Slaughterhouse 9. We can assume there are 9 people in the Slaughterhouse 9. And the Nilbog sounds concerning. But
sounds like the name of a bad swamp in D&D.
Yeah, I'm sure the Nilbog is an actual monster in D&D. It sounds so familiar. It's from something. But I think it's a monster. I sure hope that we stick with the dealing with ABB level Oni Lee type grunts for the time being for Taylor's own safety.
I 100% agree. Despite the fact that
I think it's interesting though that since we're doing this from the villain's perspective and not the heroes, there's not a guarantee that we're always going to be fighting the supervillains, other supervillains. It could be more of a very tense social encounter.
But they did mention how most of the time that the Undersiders are out in costume, they're constantly attacked by other gangs.
Well, they're also a small gang that's stifling territory and acting like big shots when they're all teenagers.
That is, yeah.
If I was an adult person with powers and I was getting my butt kicked by a bunch of teenagers, I think I'd feel a little insulted too and have my mooks have like a attack on sight order if I were a bad guy.
If you were a bad guy? Are you a bad guy, Ashley?
We've established that I'm a very lawful, good human being. I could not commit a crime if I tried. I would immediately cry and apologize.
I am chaotic good. Nothing can stop me if I think it's for good.
The world is doomed. Save yourselves. Anyway, I think this is a good stopping point. We will see you guys next time when we talk about Art 4. Art 3 was really good. Again, Wild Bow I feel like he's stepping up the writing. The writing's only going to get better. It's just so good. But thank you for listening. Thank you for tuning in for another episode of Anecdotal Adventures. I'm Ashley.
I'm Cassidy. And remember to stay moral.
Don't fall down the slippery slope that Taylor is currently swan diving off of. That's our advice for this week. See you all next time.